talking to the Corinthians, says, a time will come when knowledge will be nothing. And he says other things are going to come to an end as well. And that's what we're going to look at in this video. And so this change is coming. And the book of Corinthians, neither one of them is known for its prophecies, but it does have many of them. It's known for many other things, the message given to the Corinthian church much more. And so this is one that we're going to be looking at here. And it comes in an odd place, but it's important to understand what's being said here. So this is from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 8 through 12. And it says, love never fails, for prophecies shall cease, tongues shall be silenced, and knowledge will be nothing. For we know partially, and we prophesy partially. But when perfection shall come, then that which is partial shall be nothing. When I was a child, I was speaking as a child, I was led as a child, I was thinking as a child. But when I became a man, I ceased these childish things. Now we see as in a mirror, in an allegory, but then face to face. Now I know partially, but then I shall know as I am known. So you've got quite a bit of stuff packed in there, and we'll unpack all of that now. So here in the love chapter, and chapter 13 is known as the love chapter, not as the prophecy chapter. And so it's a bit odd to see it here, but Paul switches to speaking of the future for his argument that he's making in his own context. And our context is different here. But in his context, his point is that the Corinthian church's focus on the gift of the Spirit is excessive. Their focus is on things that are temporary, he says. And that's his point here, is that these things are temporary, they're going to come to an end. And he says their focus should be on things that are permanent. He also says those gifts that they have and they're so focused on now are partial gifts, not the full gift. And he says, and at this time, that they're just partial, but they will be full in the future. And so he's again making that point that their focus should not be on the gifts as much as it is. And so he compares these gifts to speaking and thinking and being led as a child, because he sees them very much as incomplete gifts, only partial gifts, he says. So that's his perspective. But for our perspective, it provides more detail about the coming of the end of the gifts and things that will happen in the future. Our prophecy is our focus here. And so he says all these things are going to come to an end. Prophecies are going to come to an end. Tongues and knowledge are going to come to an end. And that's where our focus for this video. When this change comes, it will also come with perfection, he says, but that's not something I'm going to touch on here. There's going to be another video, I'll attach the link up here, that's going to talk about perfection, so you can dig into that topic particularly, but for now we're not going to look at that. So he talks about gifts coming to an end, and currently within the church, some people have more gifts or different gifts than other people have. And so some have a gift that another person doesn't have, some don't have any real noticeable gifts, and that's the way the church is currently. And so some have more knowledge than others, for example, and that can cause some people to boast. And Paul has to actually address that problem with the Corinthian church, is that there are some people who are becoming boastful about the gifts that they do have. And that's the current situation. But he says prophecies and tongues are going to come to an end. And the reason is going to be because we will have all knowledge. And that's what his point is there. And we'll explain that as we go through here. So prophecies, these are God's messages delivered to a prophet, and then the prophet gives them to the people of God. And that will come to an end because they won't be necessary. And not that they couldn't be there, but there's just no need for them because of the change that's going to come. And tongues, Paul says tongues are assigned to the unbeliever, and that's going to come to an end too at the same sort of time. And so no longer is there going to be a need for them. These two particular ones, prophecies and tongues, there's something better that's going to replace them, and that's what Paul is talking about here. And he also says knowledge will be no more, but he says that because everyone will have all knowledge. And so knowledge, he isn't saying that knowledge ends, he's saying that there will be no difference among people as to how much knowledge they have of God. And he says, know as I am known. I will know God as I am known by God. So that's his point. And so we will know, all of us, God completely. And as he knows us now, as completely as he knows us now, we will know him that completely. So that's really his point here, is not that everybody's going to become dumb because they won't know anything. It's that knowledge will not be important anymore because everybody will have the same knowledge of God. there won't be differences among people. So Zechariah recognizes this. He comes well before Paul, of course, but he's also aware that this time is coming and this change is coming. And his prophecy takes a little different perspective on that. He says, "It will come about in that day, declares the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols from the land, and they will no longer be remembered. And I will also remove the prophets and the unclean spirit from the land. And if anyone still prophesies, then his father and mother who gave birth to him will say to him, 'You shall not live, for you have spoken falsely in the name of the Lord.' And his father and mother who gave birth to him will pierce him through when he prophesies. Also it will come about in that day that the prophets will each be ashamed of his vision when he prophesies, and they will not put on a hairy robe in order to deceive." Now remember that a hairy robe was traditionally associated with a prophet. Prophets wore kind of minimalist clothing that way. So Zechariah says it's more than just the fact that everyone will have all knowledge and prophecy won't be necessary because everyone will have all knowledge of God. He says that if anyone still tries to prophesy like a prophet in this situation, then their own mother and father will hate them so much that they will kill them and put them to death. So Zechariah's perspective is really not any different from Paul's, just that he says that anybody who continues to try to be a prophet or to claim that he is a prophet will be known to be a deceiver, and everybody will know that. And so anybody who thinks he's a prophet risks his own life by claiming to be a prophet and claiming to deliver a word from God. And the reason is that everybody knows God as well as everybody else, and so there's no need for a prophet, and he's a liar and not telling the truth. And Zechariah's perspective is that if anyone continues to try to do this, his own father and mother will put him to death because of that. So the real question here is, when will this happen? And this change comes with the return of our Lord, the second coming. And what happens at that time, we know, the dead will rise in new bodies, the living will be translated into new bodies as well, and all at that time will be perfected. That was the part of this verse that we're not going to dig into here in this video. And we will know God completely, says Paul, knowing him as well as he knows us now. And so we will know God completely, including knowing everything that he knows. And so knowledge will be nothing. Everybody will know everything there is to be known, and there won't be anyone who knows more or less. No need for prophets, none of those sorts of gifts that are currently part of what we have from the Spirit.